all these really wealthy people have a family office.
Yep.
But what about all the entrepreneurs on the way up? They don't have that comprehensive, coordinated team. But thanks to AI and thanks to my ability to partner with attorneys and accountants now, we can offer those full services at a fraction of the price and still be wickedly accurate, extraordinarily efficient, and get people's financial house in order. It's like, I'm so fired up about it because it's been my life's work that finally came to fruition this year, really.
Welcome to the Your Seat at the Table podcast with your hosts, Idea Monkey Mike Maddock and ringleader John Tobin. We're two founders, a serial entrepreneur and a billion-dollar operator, who talk to leaders about how, when, and why they made their most pivotal decisions in life. Join us as we share wisdom, mistakes, and a few laughs learning from the brightest minds in business today. Garrett Gunderson is in the house. Some people think about how you spend your money, how you spend less money, how you save your money, how you invest your money, how you diversify your money, how you protect your money, how you grow, earn more, fear your money, make your money last, make your money do more, protect your money, donate your money, make your money create generational wealth, pay less taxes on your money. Garrett is my favorite money muse because he's thought about all of that and way, way more. 15 years ago at MIT, at an entrepreneurial conclave, Garrett gave me the gift of a paradigm shift about money that I never forgot and has made my life and my family's life way, way better. So thank you, Garrett, for giving me that gift.
Appreciate that.
You're my favorite money muse. That's what I call you. And
Nice.
You've written one of the best-selling books on insurance, but you don't want to sell anybody insurance. You've done a stand-up special about money, a comedy special, so you can catch that on Amazon if anybody wants to see that. You've written all kinds of books. You've thought about money more than anyone I know. So before we start peppering you with questions about money, we have lots of them. Tell us how you came to think about money so much in your life.
My family kind of struggled with money from a standpoint of like my great grandfather wasn't making enough in Italy, so he left his pregnant wife behind to come to America to provide a better life, which meant originally he was a goat herd because there was a mine disaster before he finally became a coal miner and met his daughter at 7 years old for the first time. So that created like folklore in our family, like a level of scarcity that you got to hold on to what you can, that if you don't have enough money, you could lose your family and lose everything that you care about. So it became like very much miserly hoarding, putting cash in coffee cans, putting them in the cellar, having the first dollar they ever earned. I think my great aunt applied for welfare, but they denied her because she had $550,000 in savings, because poverty is kind of a mindset, not always a bank account, And so
It's amazing.
that was like and I believed for a long time, like it's just how much you can save. Like that was my original thought until when I was selling insurance. I got my first MDRT award, which is an insurance agency award. And I was really proud. And then I talked to this woman, Nancy, and she's like, I can't wait till you get to the top of the table. You'll see they view money differently. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And I just kept asking her questions. And then she's asking me questions. And I'm answering them with like saving, scrimping, sacrificing, delaying, deferring, every answer, until she goes, I wonder what it's like living in the financial prison you built for your wife. I was like, oh. Well, yeah,
What is
I'm
that?
kind
So
of the a-hole.
say more about that. What kind of financial prison? Because I know that there are a lot of couples that think about money differently.
Oh, yeah.
My wife and I think about money a little bit differently. How did you build a financial prison for your wife around money?
Well, if we went back to, we were dating in college, and I was fun, I was romantic, we did great things. And then when we got married, we moved in together, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm responsible for the safety, security, and protecting this family. And so I just went into, I'm going to work as much as anyone could ever work so we could live a better life in the future. And I'm going to save like no one can save. We'll live in this crappy apartment, even though we're making six figures, which, back in 2002, that was something. And basically just, I was arguing over the heating bill. I was pinching pennies with the budget every day. Like she was like, I didn't know who I married, is what she said. She's like, it was like a different person, because that different, like, my family heritage kind of came in. I was like, ooh, you never know what could happen. You better hold on to what you got.
Hmm.
So you were selling a $1 million round table. That's MDRT. So, and top of the table was for the top 1/4% of insurance people. You were selling insurance at that time. Is that right?
Yeah, I was selling insurance, started when I was 19 years old at Guardian, and, I was trying to tell people I was a financial planner, but I was really just a insurance salesman, but I didn't like saying that.
Yep.
Um,
I've
so that
known
was kind
many
of
of those.
yeah, I just didn't feel like my tie was short enough or my belly was big enough at the time to say I was selling insurance, so I tried to sound better than I was. And then I pretty much sold insurance till like 2006, and then I was gonna go speak at a Guardian agency, and Guardian compliance said, "We need to see your talk." I was like, "Well, I don't know exactly what I'm gonna say, but here's the gist of it." And they're like, "Yeah, you can't do that."
Hmm.
I said, "What if I wasn't insurance licensed anymore?" Then you could do that. So I resigned at that point, gave
Wow.
up my renewals, started doing radio shows, started writing books, that kind of stuff instead of selling insurance.
And that is the book Killing Sacred Cows, right? Was that the book we're talking about right now?
Yeah, I
What's
wrote
the
that
thesis?
that there's
What's the thesis?
nine financial myths that people don't understand or see because they're very elusive. They're very subtle. Like if they were obvious myths and obvious lies, we would know, but they're so subtle that people actually believe them. And so I kind of point them out so that people go, "Oh, I can now avoid that myth or mistake." And it kind of gives them permission to prosper, permission to succeed. And it helps them to think more abundantly versus coming from scarcity, kind of like my background of scarcity to coming more from a place of serving others, solving problems, adding value, and realizing that there's not a finite pie that exchange actually creates wealth. And so, how do we create more exchange? How do we add more value? How do we all that? Yeah.
Okay.
Are you, what are they? Let's hear some of them. A couple.
All right. So we'll pick three because all three are kind of inside of financial planning. The first one
Okay.
is, and I've heard so many people say this, it takes money to make money. That's like one that they say, it takes money to make money. Well, that's like a chicken and the egg scenario, right? Like, like how did money even come about? It was just a man-made efficient tool to exchange. So it takes relationships and ideas, value and exchange. And when we think it takes money to make money, we become less resourceful, less resilient. We feel more defeated. And the people that tell us it takes money to make money, it doesn't take their money to make money. It takes our money for them to make money. If you think about Wall Street, they're getting paid fees, whether you
Right.
make money or not, all that kind of stuff. So that's the first one. The second one is high risk equals high return. Like we've heard that how many times? But risk means chance of losing. So increasing our chance of losing doesn't help us win. What it does is it gets us separated from the outcome of our money. And we go, well, I don't know. So I'm just going to trust Wall Street. Would we trust Wall Street with anything else? Like, what kind of brand is Wall Street? Wall Street Airlines, you flying them, Mike? You getting on that flight today? How about Wall Street Daycare? You taking your kids there? They're like, oh, sorry, we lost 7% of your kids, but it's just toes. Like somehow the people that we have the movies, Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room, we're like, yeah, that's where we're going to hand our money over and trust what's going on. So the riskiest thing we do is not know what's going on. And then the third thing is you're in it for the long haul. Well, that has us neglect stewardship, neglect creating cash flow, waiting for 30 years, not measuring whether it's working or not. It's always this narrative is just set it and forget it, invest early, often, and always. So, this belief that wealth is a function of how much money can you put away, how much risk can you take, and how long can you wait has failed 95% of the time because 95% of Americans are not financially independent at age 65. That's a 95% failure rate because there is no understanding of if it's working or not. And ultimately, what most of the advice is you see these gurus will go, well, if you just start at age 20 and save $2,000 a year, that's more than if you wait till 30 and save all the way till you're 60. Well, what happens to those people that are 30, 40, and 50? Or what happens when 2008 occurs or 2020 occurs? Because, like we have all these losses. And if you have 100 grand and you lose 10%, you're down to 90 grand. When you turn on the news, like the market's rallied, it's back up 10%. Yeah, 10% of 90 grand. That's not even back to your 100,000. You lost the time value of money and you probably had to pay fees. So we've just been indoctrinated to neglect our money, to just hand it over because we're told it's just too complicated. Trust someone else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So is that part of the premise to manage your money yourself? Like don't give it to Wall Street, like you said? Or is that and maybe like there's a little skepticism from me, a little bit, just, like kind of, um, I'm definitely, you know, uh, didn't come from money, had, and my dad definitely was more like what you're talking about, where it was buy a house, save, save, save as much as you can, scrimp where you can, paycheck to paycheck. I was one of 7 kids, and he was a teacher, good guy, really smart, but didn't make any money. He would work on the weekends just to make ends meet. And I remember literally payday on a Friday, Thursday, every other week, you'd open the fridge, it'd have
You're out of food.
nothing in the fridge. Thing of
Yeah.
water, baking soda in the corner, condiments on the shelf. My mom would make breakfast for dinner typically just to
Mhm.
make ends meet. And so I grew up like thinking I've got to have money. And like my parents didn't fight a lot. What they fought about was money.
Money.
So, like, that's
Yes.
that's my relationship with money, was like, I better have a lot because I don't want to be as miserable as they were. Anyway, so my point is, like, what do you tell people when they're younger, I guess, to get them to start to think like this?
So there's a lot to unpack in that, and
Sorry.
the first thing is,
Sorry.
which I
Yeah.
love, you know, the first thing is, all right, I get there's a lot of people out there that are just W-2 earners that are not in some doing something they love. They're exhausted by the end of the day. And so for some of my advice, it can't really apply to them because my first advice to people is discover your investor DNA. See, risk isn't in the investment, it's in the investor. So, what
Mm,
kind of investor are you? I was told in my early years, if you're going to be wealthy, you got to own a lot of real estate. Well, guess what? I owned a lot of real estate and it didn't make me wealthy. It made me exhausted. I'm talking to bankers,
mm,
attorneys, property managers.
mm,
I'm talking to like maintenance people and tenants only if they're very upset. Like it wasn't a good situation for me because I didn't
mm,
love looking at spreadsheets. I didn't love looking at property. I didn't love the entire process. But that was one of the things that gurus would say is you got to own real estate. Well, not if it's in your investor, if it's not your investor DNA, which is what are your like core values? What are the things that you deem important? What are your core competencies? Where do you have an ability to learn at a more rapid rate in a category more than another? And then what
mm,
is your focus? Because we've been told forever, diversify, but diversification is great for preservation. It's admission of ignorance on the way up, though. I don't know it's going to work. I'll just spread myself thin. And
mm,
so I think you've had, I just met you, but from the early story is like, you've had to have a pretty amazing focus to build what you've built.
mm,
And you've got some pretty amazing investor DNA in what you've done in business to create what you've created. So I get that maybe a teacher isn't going to go do that. Maybe they need to follow with less guilt and shame the Dave Ramsey model because I just feel like he guilt and shames people a little bit too much. But at least
And
he says,
he's gotten a little arrogant and cocky. He used to be so humble. Not to go
but I'm
off on
like,
Dave, but I was a big
he's
fan of
rich.
his,
Why
but
did
now he's like, well, what? Like now he's just snarky. Like what happened to the humble, I lost everything, Dave Ramsey?
what happened was he's got a conflict in his philosophy, and this is the conflict that will help answer the question. We've seen over 20, 30 years index funds beat managed funds the majority of the time, especially even hedge funds, which are supposed to be the best of the best.
mm,
So
Yeah.
he's selling leads to financial people that are doing managed funds so they can get paid, which to me is against the philosophy of reducing expenses. And only because we go, oh, well, it's a percentage. 1% doesn't seem that much. 1% on 100 grand over 30 years, if it earned 10%, it would grow to 1.74 million. No tax, no fees. If you only earn 9.2% because of fees, it grows to 1.4 million. $340,000 cost from that fee. So where I'm saying like, hey, people that spend more than they make, they've got to create a more strict budget. Maybe the best thing they can do if they just blow money is pay off a mortgage and fund a retirement plan. My problem with that is it's extraordinarily one-dimensional. You've only deferred taxes, not actually saved them. You've worked against inflation by using every extra dollar to pay off a loan with valuable dollars today that would have been less valuable in the future, which allows you to grow. So like I just think that a lot of the advice is this. People, and this is, I've talked to too many gurus one-on-one and they'll say people are stupid. I hate that sentiment.
mm,
Like, I'm like, if they were so intelligent around finance, how would you make your millions and tens of millions of dollars? It's like, we have to help people. They haven't been trained in this. And if school tries, they don't do any better. The Economist did an article in 2014 that showed almost no statistical relevance on training kids about money in school. And part of it is because personal finance is different than economics and corporate finance, but economics and corporate finance tell us more about money than personal finance. Personal
Mm.
finance looks at it too one-dimensional. Here's a good example. Let's say that, let's say I'm willing to lend you money today and I'm not going to charge you any interest. How much would you take?
As much as you give me.
Right. How fast do you want to pay me back if I'm letting you come up with the terms?
As slow as possible.
Super easy, but like Dave Ramsey says he wouldn't take $1, which is just absurd. Because you could arbitrage that by putting it in the safest thing possible and you're still in a positive return. But it's because of the dogma in his mind and not looking at the economics. And so what people do is we see like now they're talking about 50-year mortgages, and almost 99 out of 100 people go, "This is crazy. Look how much interest you pay," which shows they know nothing about how interest works. See, if I can earn 5% or I can pay 5%, I always have an interest cost. If I pay cash, I forfeit the right to earn 5%. If I borrow, I pay the 5%, but then I can still have my money. Like, so if I have a 50-year mortgage and I pay it like a 15-year, same payment, if it's the same interest rate, it pays off in 15 years. I get most people won't do it that way, but we have to at least look at what's really going on to inform people so they can make better choices rather than go, they're not going to understand it. Let's just tell them, pay it off. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's the
Like,
challenge. That people don't know that, paying uh, $500 more on their mortgage creates anyway. Let's talk about
Hmm.
wealth. You have a great definition of wealth. I think it is the best definition I've heard. So talk about that for a second. How do I know if I'm wealthy?
if you have an ability to be present.
Say
And that's
more.
the thing. Yeah, the model I shared with you, right? That wealth is a function of how much money you can put away, how much risk you take, how much time you can wait. That's never about being present. That's about chasing a one day. That's
Mm.
about having more someday. And so it's like sacrifice today because one day it's going to pay off.
Mm.
And look, there's so many studies that we've seen, right? Like the marshmallow experiment and all this kind of stuff, that if we have the ability to be
Yeah.
patient, that's different than sacrifice. It's saying, what is it worth it? It's opportunity cost. It's looking at the big vision. But for too many people in finance, it's if you will live like a miser today, you'll have a better life 30 years from now. But every study shows if you're a miser today, you'll be a miser in retirement. You don't
So
flip a
this is the
switch.
gift. This is the gift that you gave me. This is the gift
Yeah.
that you gave me. And contextually, uh, my I did a science fair project with a guy named Mike Roach in 7th grade on cancer. He died 2 years later. And my late wife's mother died when she was 16 years old. They saved forever, went to Norway. She was dead 3 months later. She was sick. They finally did that trip to Norway. My roommate from college died the day before his 40th birthday. And I saw you and came up with because of what in part because of what you said. I just decided money was for memories, period, and that we
Mm.
were not going to wait a
Mm.
day and have made some ridiculously stupid
Mm.
financial decisions if you ask a financial planner. But I'll tell you what, when my late wife got sick with brain cancer, I asked her, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "We've done everything." And all those memories that we
That's
had with our
how much peace
children.
is that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just did all those stupid things early. And I'm so grateful because that the book Die with Nothing, they show you that graph where by the time you have money and have the physical ability to do all those things, it's such a short window.
Yeah.
So people wait and wait and wait, and then their bodies just won't let them climb that mountain or go on that trip. So I want to thank you for that gift. So
So, Mike,
y-
what was,
yeah,
but was the conversation, or was it, Garrett, did you speak at GOT or something, or like, is
yeah.
that what it was? Or, and when you heard that, was it this awakening, Mike? Like in terms of this is what wealth is making memories. Like, is that how you,
It gave me the courage to invest in myself, and the
okay.
reason is because the honestly, the most money I've ever made, the most money I've ever lost has been at my own hand, and I'm fine with that. Like when I invest in my own businesses, I am in control, I'm accountable, I have a mirror, I can blame myself. So it gave me he basically made the point that all the money, the scarcity thinking, all the money that I'm giving someone else who says, wait, 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 wait. And I've watched people do it, and you have too, John,
Yep.
was just bullshit. Like they're taking all the money that you're giving them and they're investing it so they can do all the things you want to do today. What are you waiting for? And I'm not giving you enough credit, Garrett, because you're much more eloquent about money. All I can tell you is a light switch went off in me and I'm just like, wow, that's really interesting. And I just behaved differently from that moment on. And I'm happy I did. Not I did a lot of things wrong. I still do, but it was just this awakening, like, huh. And I have memories to show for it. So I'm
Well,
grateful.
I don't have any money in the stock market, which is, as a money guy, probably surprising for most people.
Huh.
But the reason I don't is because it's not really my investor DNA. And even deeper is I believe I vote with my dollars. And 40% of the S&P 500, I would love to go away because I don't think they're helping humanity. I really think they're destroying it.
Mm.
And so I don't want to support that. Yes, it's more liquid than my businesses. Yes, it's more liquid than the few pieces of real estate that I intimately know and utilize and don't even create cash flow from, but helps as a hedge against inflation. I just simplified my financial life. If we go back to my 20s, I believe that work was the holy grail because I was trying to prove to people that I was valuable, and I was doing it through material things and through awards. Like I'm hitting Inc. 500 award, I'm SBA Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And at the same time, like my wife is like, I feel like a single mom, so like I'm losing the game of life because I
Okay.
said yes to every speaking opportunity. And so I had over 100 real estate properties, 2 oil and gas deals, 2 IPO. Like I had a hard money lending fund. And I remember my grandfather, who's my hero, we hosted the Super Bowl party at my house, which is for his birthday. And I watched 5 minutes of the game because I was on the phone the whole time dealing with all this real estate stuff that was going on. I took my wife on a trip to Tempe. I was closing a real estate deal the whole time. Like I was never present.
Mm.
And she was just kind of resigned to like, I guess this is who he is, and I don't know what to do about it. And then all of a sudden 2008 happens and it's like, oh, I worked so hard to build this portfolio that is just drowning right now because it wasn't really in my DNA. It was just doing it only for money. I had no real purpose other than greed. I had no real competency other than basic financial knowledge, but it was actually outside of my key realm. And
Hmm.
then 2010 comes, I've cleaned it up. I'm having the biggest year in business ever. And my wife is just like numb, like just like, yeah, like who
Here we
cares?
go
And
again.
I'm having this like really big moment where I'm like, dude, this just happened. And she's like, I brought home just like, I made 100 grand a day and we just took a distribution. And she's like, so? And I was like, well, I thought you'd think this was cool. She's like, I could see the addiction. I see where we're going. And so I basically I had to realize that what I was doing in business that was working, I wasn't doing that in my health and I wasn't doing that in my marriage. So I just kind of reverse engineered a little bit. I was like, well, in business I have mentors, I'm reading books, I'm doing these meetings. So I'm like, why don't I set up meetings with my wife every week? Why don't I create a vision for our marriage and say I want to be a premier romantic and extraordinary husband. That will be my vision. And these weekly meetings, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10 as a husband? And, how am I doing as a father? And like, what are the big things you want to look forward to? And I created this format. I was like, hey, we're going to have, if I'm gone more than 4 days in a month, I take a full day off during the weekday. If we are going to spend 14 days away from the kids for overnight trips through the year so that we could just, and I'm like, we're going to do date night every week. You don't have to worry about it. In the meeting, if you have ideas, throw them out to me, but I'm taking care of you. Like, I just started doing this. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to think of like, who are my best friends? And this was actually when I was at GOT, I thought of this. I thought, who are my best friends that are amazing at marriage and older than me? And I picked 3 friends. I'm like, these 3 have the best marriages. They're all older than me and my wife. We're going to get together. We flew to Chicago. We sat down. She interviewed the women. What are your best practices? I interviewed the men. What are your best practices? And the women could convince her of stuff I couldn't convince her of. Like,
Huh.
we should put each other first, not the kids. She's like, I don't trust you that you won't put your business first. You know, like, I'm like, hey, we should get a nanny to support part time. She's like, that would make me a failure as a mother. But these women all had nannies. So all of a sudden, she could listen to them.
Mm.
And I decided in 2012, I met with my CEO. I go, I'm going to take so much time off this year. I don't want it to hurt the business, but I want to show my wife she's our biggest priority. What do you think we could do? He goes, I could improve our margins. We could improve some of the things in our offerings that aren't profitable enough, start removing them. So even if our revenue dips, I think we'll make the same amount of money. And halfway through that year, I said, I'm only going to speak 10 times. I'm only going to speak if I bring my wife and the kids, which made me a horrible speaker, Mike, because I just show up, get on stage, speak, and then I was gone, and just hanging out with them. But my wife, halfway through the year, was like, are we okay? Like, what do you mean? She's like, well, like, you're not at work very often. We're doing all these fun things and like we're spending a decent amount of money. Like, are we okay? And I'm like, yeah, you asked me when we were dating, would I be willing to give up what I was doing if you were sick or if we had to move? And I hesitated. And I could see that always created this level of fear in you. I'm here to show you like you're such a priority. And that's been the richest reward I've had is investing in my marriage. Like
Yeah.
hardest,
So you
but
said,
richest.
I'm going to quote you because I think this is in a headline what you're talking about, and I think this is the central theme to what you preach. You're very you're like a minister today, Garrett. So I'm enjoying it. When you design a game that is worth playing, you've already won.
Yeah.
When you design a game that is worth playing, you've already won. Talk about retirement.
Well, like, what's crazy is I write the book Money Unmasked, and it's my first book that I just wrote. I had an amazing editor. She's like, you actually might know her, AJ Harper. She helps McAllowitz with a lot of his
Mike
books.
McAllowitz. Yeah.
And so like I'm writing this book and it's taking me 7 years to write because I keep writing it and I like going through stuff that I'm writing about. And in the book, it has two main concepts. One is scarcity comes from playing not to lose, which we've talked about with my family history. But the more subtle thing where scarcity comes from is playing to win, which is always about the future, never enjoying the present, right? That's the playing to win. And most entrepreneurs wear that as a moniker, a badge, like I'll play to win, but my dad said you never, you can never buy back the memories you never have. And so this is kind of like going through a little bit of the story I'm sharing. And so the design of the book is how do you design a game where you've already won because the win is in the work, that you've designed the life that you love so you're not ever going to retire from it. A lot of people retire from their business because they overwork themselves in the name of growth, but at the expense of personal growth, at the expense of quality of time, at the expense of quality of life. And so as I'm writing the book, I have this epiphany. I've sold my business, but I did a lucrative licensing deal. And I'm like, wait, this isn't aligned with my brand. They don't share my values anymore, but it's 7 figures a year. And I'm like, damn, I'm playing not to lose. I hate every minute of anything I do for them, even though it's not a lot of time. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to cut this off because I'm launching the book right now. And if I don't cut this off, I'm a liar. I'm still playing not to lose. But at the same time, I had this new thing where I had a friend that was a partner where I was now playing to win. He was going through an existential crisis, hadn't done any work for like a year. I'm working tirelessly and splitting half of it. I'm like, oh, wait, play to win on one side, playing not to lose. So I'm a relationship guy. I cut off 2 relationships within months of each other. I have so much stress that my kidney's going to stage 4 failure. I now have adrenal fatigue and I'm just laying in bed, not able to sleep, but exhausted. Well, I'm launching a book about loving your life. And I'm like, why do I write these things? Because I know I'm gonna have to face and go through it. Like I write Killing Sacred Cows and I go, hey, net worth's not as important as cash flow, which isn't even as important as living a life that you love. And I'm like, $8 million net worth declines $8 million during 2008. And I'm like, okay, yeah,
You did it. You did
I
it.
proved my point. I've shown through example, but that was, and so coming out of it, it's awesome that I invested so much in my marriage because my wife was my confidant through 2004 and through this year that we built a business that we love, working with people that we love. But it was like I had to shake like my lack of confidence from 2023. I had to get over this health thing, which seemed insurmountable, and my wife helped me figure it out with the right people and the right doctors, and like how I eat now and how I handle stress.
So
and
you're
all that
going to
kind of stuff.
retire? You
And
gonna
so
retire?
I retired for about 3 days when I sold the business and had finished doing comedy, and I realized I had nothing to do but watch TV, and there was nothing on that I wanted to watch because everybody else was working. I was like, retirement means to take out of service, like something you do to a cow behind the barn. Like when they retire a player's jersey, that's not good news. It means they're not useful anymore, right? So it's like, hey, mom, what do we do with dad now that he's retired? I don't know. Put him in the spare bedroom next to the treadmill nobody's used. You know what I'm saying? Like retirement is a antiquated philosophy that came from the industrial age when you had to retire in order to survive and live some semblance of a life because you're working 7 days a week doing assembly line work that is excruciatingly painful. And so now we're in a place where it's a different age. What if, like, I know there's still plenty of jobs that people hate doing, but for someone like you guys, if you retire, you remove this wisdom because you've gotten smarter over the years, not less. Like an athlete loses a step over time,
Yep.
an entrepreneur gains a step. And so there's so much you can contribute and give back. And what I found is when I sold my business, it was a really hollow feeling for a while. It was like I felt unimportant. I lacked value. Thank God I picked up comedy like immediately afterwards, which was fun, but it wasn't transformational. So, you know, being on the road doing comedy clubs kind of lost its luster after 2 years. So I really respect those guys for doing it, but it wasn't going to be quality of life and family life that I wanted. So I had to go, what's something I could dedicate my life to? What's a vision I wouldn't retire from? And you know what I love to do? I love to sit down with people and help them build their legacy, like their family constitution, which is in their own words before we get into the legalese of the trust, or a family retreat structure, or build a family, crest, or like all that kind of stuff. And people are crying, they're emotional. I'm emotional. Like, why would I stop doing that? That's the
Yeah.
most richly rewarding thing that I do that's not for my family. And I even do that for my family, which, by the way, I told Mike this 10 times harder than doing it for a client. One, they're just 1/10 as impressed as the client. The client's just like, "How can you do this?" And my family's like, "Now what? Can we go?" I'm like, "Come on, guys. I'm trying to read. I'm crying. They're not."
So is
Yeah.
that
So
what you do, and is that like your job, would you say, like now, or do you just is that what you do, like I don't know, in your spare time, I guess? Like what?
I do 18 of those a year, and they
Okay.
come out to my cabin, which is more of a lodge than a cabin. It's on a river, aspen trees everywhere, and we just sit down one on one and build it out. And it's like it's so much fun. It's not scalable, but it's rewarding. I love
Yeah.
it. So it's not the whole business I do. What I've figured out, and it's taken me only like, since 1998, we just figured it out last year, and it really dialed in, was all these really wealthy people have a family office.
Yep.
But what about all the entrepreneurs on the way up? They don't have that comprehensive, coordinated team. But thanks to AI and thanks to my ability to partner with attorneys and accountants now, we can offer those full services at a fraction of the price and still be wickedly accurate, extraordinarily efficient, and get people's financial house in order. It's like I'm so fired up about it because it's been my life's work that finally came to fruition this year, really. I mean, I launched it July of 24, but it's taken until this year that we had all the tools and resources and team to fully implement. And like I'm showing other family offices what we do. We can get something done in 30 minutes. It takes them 20 to 40 hours to do, thanks to the models that we've built. And it's pretty, that's what I love to do. Yeah. And
Got it.
so I
so
mostly, speak and write to promote that.
y-
Nice.
I just want to I want to make sure we land this plane because
Yeah.
uh now that you said that, when you design a game that's worth playing, you've already won. I think that's very wise. And most people, the people that you're talking to, have the power to redesign their lives. They just don't think to do it. You said something else that I mean, you have this ability to drop phrases that really hit me in the heart and the head. And one of them was sacrifice is habitual.
Mm.
Sacrifice is habitual. And I think about my youngest son complaining that when we go on vacation, well, he's just going to work anyway. And I like to work. I like it. I like getting up. I like doing stuff. I'm going to be busy. And for me, but I told my story most of my life.
Hmm.
I'm doing this for you. I'm giving up all this stuff for
Yeah.
you. And I think that story in my brain became a habit that I was almost unaware of. And you
Yeah.
said, yeah, sacrifice is habitual, isn't it? Like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What part of the game am I playing that I don't even realize I could switch if I was just more aware of why I do things?
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember telling my wife, I think it was 2010, "I'm doing this for you. I'm doing
Yeah,
this for the family." And she goes, "I didn't ask for any of this." She goes, "That's the biggest lie. You're doing it for you." You know, and if you watch Breaking Bad, there's a moment towards the end where Walter White, says, "I did it because I liked it.
Yeah.
It felt good," right? Like it was the first honest moment that he had, in the whole show.
I
And it's
still
like,
haven't watched one episode. It's time.
Oh
I
God,
think I should
it's
get on
so
that
good.
bandwagon.
It's really good, Mike.
dude, that is my favorite TV series. It's dark. I
All
I even have
right.
I had my
It,
son watch it. He'll never touch meth. It's like, dude, watch this. He'll never
no,
touch
it's
it. But
amazing.
so I told my wife that, and she just called me out. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs,
Mm,
work is a good escape. I mean, it's not always an escape,
mm,
but sometimes when we're not feeling 100%, we get so much positive feedback by working. It lets us be a little bit present into the work, to get something done and feel accomplished, to help our employees, to help our customers. Like, there's a lot of love in that. And as we know early on in business, we're willing to do anything for the business. And sometimes that's the worst habit, because then people just rely on us and we're the bottleneck. When I went to Italy for a summer, everyone had to grow up, everyone had to mature, everyone had to figure it out on their own. And then I remember going to our events, and people would be talking about our program, and they weren't using my name anymore. And it hurt my feelings a little bit. Honestly, I
mm.
was like, I shouldn't be this fickle. I shouldn't be this immature, but it's because this is good news. It means we're maturing. It means that other people can provide the value. And what I'm really working on in my life today is I have really strict parameters. So instead of letting a project take over, I just create parameters and rules that help me to be intentional with my family, with my friends. So this is like, you can create traditions that have these things happen on a regular basis. We have traditions in our family that are outside of religious traditions or outside of holiday traditions that really help us out. We have, like, I just have rules, just like I said, with travel and stuff like that. But then I have rules of like where the computer stays and never goes. And when I like, even at my cabin, built a special room above the garage. That's the only place I work. I never work in the cabin, because in
Mm.
the cabin is family time, fun time, relaxation, so I spatially anchor my life to support what I want, because it is easy to work. It's harder to be intentional with the family, but when you break the habit and you start getting present with the family, like, I found that's why I got into comedy. When we're laughing, we're present. We're not
Mm.
worried about the past. We're not concerned about the future. We're in the moment. And so laughter is a big part of our family. We're going to have a little family party coming up. And I know that there's going to be a ton of laughter, and nobody's going to be thinking about our differences in politics or our differences in philosophy, that we're just going to laugh and we're going to make fun of each other. And that's part of what makes our family like work so well.
So I
Well,
love I
yeah.
love the tradition thing, and it's almost like you're creating habits to get out of your habits in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
but I because I was going to ask you, like, how do you wake yourself up? I mean, maybe other than a significant other reminding you, is there a trigger that you can put in your brain, like, oh, I'm doing it again, or I'm trapped again, get out of it? Like, is there anything that you do, or is it these traditions that have helped you, the rules, traditions, however you want to frame it, that have helped you, reminders? Because I think that happens to me. I go in, you know, almost did big slumps, and then really, really ride the wave and like going
Yep.
crazy. And that's kind of where I am right now, like really, really all in on work. And it's actually fun though. But
Yeah.
am I just kidding myself that it's fun? I don't know. Like maybe I can
No,
convince myself.
I
So
don't
I
think
I,
so.
I don't know. Is there anything to trigger, or like a wake up in a way?
I will talk to my wife when things are going to go in waves and get permission. I'll say, like, July, I'm like, I'm going to launch this program. I want to test some things before bring in a sales team. Let me know when this becomes a problem.
Okay.
So the first few months, we're high fiving, celebrating, we're marking off. And then she's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm done. And I was like, all right. Like, that was, so I create those agreements beforehand. The other thing I do is I have these things in the calendar, 30 minutes. coffee and carry. I like alliteration, right? So it's 30 minutes in the morning, and then I've carved that time out. And she knows once a week I might say, you know what, I'm in the middle of writing right now. Could we just skip coffee today? But I make sure that it's the majority of the time that we do it. Then the second thing I do is vision and visit. So last night we got in the hot tub and we just talk about what's going on with the kids, where we headed as a couple, what are you most excited about? And it's more visionary, where carrying coffee is more like the stuff that needs to be handled. Hey, we need to set up that extra bank account, like that kind of stuff. And then we just have our weekly meeting. And that weekly meeting is we do Sunday brunch with the kids, and then her and I do a meeting afterwards. We play some records, we have some coffee, but we kind of go over things. I got to tell you, we don't have to do that as much anymore. Like sometimes that meeting, she's like, we're good. Like, because I have those other pieces. But during a busy time, that one weekly meeting is critical, because what happens is, rather than her at the end of my day when I'm tired, I work really well in the morning. I don't work well at night. Like at night, I go to bed. I went to bed at 8:30 last night and I got up at 7 this morning. I've obviously need some extra sleep and I'm cool with that. But she'll make fun of me for going to bed too early. Uh but when I'm really in that season of like flow in the business, we have to have that weekly meeting. That way I can really do a check-in. How am I doing on a scale
Mhm.
of 1 to 10? You know, and just making sure that I have at least a date night or a dinner or something. So now she's getting that quality time, which is an important thing for her, even though it's just 2 really focused moments in the week. And then when I'm in a less busy season, I'm doing the coffee thing, we're doing the vision and visit thing, so we've got a little bit more going on, and that way I'm never completely abandoning it, right? And so I just find carving time out, like, I feel that if something lives in the calendar, I am really good with it. If it doesn't live in the calendar and it's an intention or a to-do list, it can totally get blown off. So I make sure that I put her as a priority, and I always go, remember, she's the biggest client that I have, if I'm going to use business terms. So I
Yep.
need to treat her like the most important one of them all, because when it wasn't good, nothing felt fulfilling. Everything felt hollow. There was no celebration, you know? So that's my methodology for doing it. And I just have someone in my life, she's really good at just telling me. She's
Yeah.
like, she's
Yep.
not mean about it, but she'll just be like, huh, we've had a lot of conversations this week. You do all the talking. You never listen to anything I say. And this last year, she's like, I don't even know how you've become this good of a listener. I'm like, it's effort. Honestly, I've gotten good at listening. I'll call to tell her something, listen for 20 minutes and be like, by the way, and she's like, holy shit. But I realize it's because for years I haven't given her a chance to talk.
Mm.
So 23 years you've been together.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so and a couple kids. So the central theme of your seat at the table, and you might have already covered it, but I want to just give you a clearing to hit it if
Yeah.
you want to. The biggest decision you've ever made, context, what was the decision, what happened, and how's it worked out for you?
The biggest decision. Because I've shared other things, I'll share that when I decided to go into finance and have my own business, I was really in a depressed state before that, because it's 1999. The economy is off the charts. I'm
Yep.
going to a very small school and I'm a really good interviewer. I wouldn't have been great at all these jobs, but I could get any job because I could do a good job in the interview. So I got offered to work at an investment bank. I got offered to work at the second biggest fund company at the time as an institutional investor, which mainly would have had me doing things like taking big clients out to golf, and I hate golfing. It was like all these job offers, right? I had the biggest offer for Anderson, which wouldn't that my school had, but like they were about to go through Enron in just a few years. And so I was I was all my professors are like, these are great offers. You need to take these offers. And I remember the one place I went to interview, there was a blizzard the whole time I was there, and I'm dating my now wife, and I'm like, how do you feel about moving to Milwaukee? She goes, I think if that's where your dream is, you should move there. She didn't say that she would move there. She was kind of like, I don't want to
I'll
prevent you from
visit
your
maybe.
dream. Like, yeah. And I was like, so, and I also like my grandfather was my hero, and you know he was entrepreneurial. He played the accordion and played in a band, and he also had a TV repair shop, but he was a coal miner, and
Mm.
my dad was a coal miner, and so like they just felt like having your own thing because of my great grandfather was risky, and so it was really hard for them to support it, even though they wanted to. I mean, they were my first clients while I was still in college, but now when it was like I'm going to graduate, I'm going to go into business, that was instrumental, because if I would have taken the corporate route, I would have hated life. I was unemployable in reality, but I would have maybe fought through it just out of survival.
Hmm.
And deciding to be an entrepreneur, I think I broke a lot of our generational chains and false beliefs. And I remember it was 2001. Um, I got this really big check, six-figure check, and I'm like second year in the business. So I went straight to my grandfather and I shut him my bank account, and I could sense his relief. And he just like grabbed my shoulder, got really teary eyed. He's like, "I'm really proud of you."
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I was like,
we are
yeah, that was
brothers.
such a. And now, my parents became clients. My mom worked for me for a long time. My sister works for me. My brother-in-law, like it's been a wild ride, but such a richly rewarding experience.
So you say
So
you went to business for yourself, but it started as selling insurance effectively, right?
Yeah, so I started selling insurance, and then I met 3 other younger guys. They were all in their 30s. I was in my early 20s, and they were surprised by what I was doing. So we formed a partnership, the
Okay,
4 of us, and that was in 2001. So
got it.
I was still selling insurance, kind of, but we were now charging fees. We were doing other
Yeah.
stuff. We were running events. We had a monthly membership, and that was part of the issue that Guardian had eventually when we started a radio show and I started doing speaking outside of the
Okay,
charges our
that makes
clients.
sense.
So yeah.
That
so
is a
Garrett,
huge decision though, like especially having all those opportunities that are just kind of a path, like a clear path. That what you did was not very clear, frankly.
Yeah,
And
I mean, if I would have become an
awesome.
investment banker, it would be against most of what I stand for today, but I would have made a lot of money. I mean,
Yeah.
investment banking is super lucrative, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
the
Amazing.
you remind me of a story. I started my first business right out of college as well, my first real business. And but in college, I had all kinds of jobs, and one of them I was a doorman at 40 East Delaware. So fast forward 6, 7 years, and we were doing business for Leo Burnett, big advertising agency, and their largest account, the person that ran it called me one day. She's like, "Mike, my sister needs some help." I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "You need to call my sister." So I call her sister. We do a bunch of work for her at the logo, little tiny company. And fast forward 30 days, I get the check and I see on the check that it's 40 East Delaware. And then a light bulb goes off in my head. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I call her up. I'm like, hey, I was your doorman." And she's like, "Excuse me?" I go, "I was your doorman. I used to hold the door for you." She's like, "Okay." I'm like, yeah, you just sent me a check. And like, there was this moment for me where it's like, because I remember holding doors for people and sit behind the counter going, someday I'm going to get to live in a building like this. So there these moments. It's just like, yeah, she wanted to hang. She thought I was a stalker or something. And all I was doing was celebrating that, someone that I used to hold the door for was actually paying
Yeah.
me for something. Yeah,
My
there are these moments.
That's good. My little moment like that is just joining the first time, well, the first country club I joined. So I was a
Yeah.
caddy when I was 13. That was kind of my first job. And you're meeting all these successful people. I mean, it was on the south side of Chicago, so they were marginally successful, to be honest with you. But like to me, it was like so amazing. I'm talking to all these like professionals, and it was like someday I'm gonna have a country club. I'm gonna belong to a country club.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a big moment. It's kind of funny when you look back on some of
Now
those
you're
things.
like, do I want to own one or just belong to one, you know?
Well, and he's actually the nicest guy to do caddies, I'm sure, in the world, because my friends that were caddies and now own businesses, you want a caddy for them because they remember what it felt like.
Oh yeah.
And
Good cat, yeah.
those guys learn so much from just hanging out and being in those conversations, just listening to the dialogue and how
Yep.
people like, "Hey, have you heard about Bernie? Do you trust him?" There's so much to be learned walking
Yeah.
along business people. At the golf course, and they sometime when we're having a beer together, remind me to tell you the story about my buddy Jeff caddying for Michael Jordan. It's worth
Mm.
something, maybe in another
Nice.
podcast. Hey, how about some rapid fire questions, Garrett? You ready?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Oh, here are the rules though. The rules are you have to just like first thing that comes to your head. All right.
Okay.
All right. All right. One word
This is
that most
dangerous for the
CEOs.
comedian.
I
We'll
know,
see how
I
this
know.
goes.
It's okay. It could be a sentence. I just want
Yeah.
the first thing that
Yeah.
pops in your head. So, one word most CEOs misunderstand about money.
Keeping it.
Best money decision you ever made.
Investing in myself.
Hmm.
One habit every financially free CEO has.
They put value first.
The moment someone knows they're finally playing offense with their money.
They think in terms of production, not reduction.
Worst money myth entrepreneurs still believe.
Money myth would be there's deep down they think there's only so much to go around.
What's more dangerous, debt or scarcity thinking?
Scarcity by far. By far.
Okay, finally, finish the sentence. Money should give you more.
Options.
That's
Awesome.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Garrett, so fun to hang out with you. Garrett Gunderson is the name. I don't need to tell you how to get hold of him because all you have to do is type his name into any kind of search tool and you'll find him. He's everywhere. You can see his stand-up comic bit on Amazon. I watched it. It was good. Garrett, well done. I can't believe you did
Thanks,
that.
man.
And just a ton of books. And my favorite money muse, Garrett Gunderson. Thank you for spending time with John and I.
That was
Hey, thanks for having
amazing,
me on.
Garrett. Great to meet you. And yeah, I could spend days with you, honestly, and pepper you with a lot of questions, to be honest with you,
Thank
because
you.
I don't have what you have in terms of the thinking. I still don't, and I should, but I still
Yeah,
don't. Even
I've
after
gone through a
listening to you,
lot
I
to
still
get here,
don't.
that's for sure. Like, there's nothing like writing a book and being like, "I'm not fully congruent with what I'm writing about
Yeah.
right now. Let's go through this."
I love that.
It's painful.
We write books to work on ourselves. Let's face it.
Totally.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
it's total therapy. I
Nice.
have a book I've
totally.
been trying to finish for 5 years, and I feel so bad about it because every time I pick up that, I'm like, I'm living a lie.
Yeah, wait till you see
So it's just,
my next book. I don't know when I'm gonna. I've had the manuscript done for 2 years, but it's using humor to teach finance. It's shorter. It's punchy. It's really meant for younger people
Yeah.
because I think they'll get through it. I'm going to illustrate it. I'm really excited about it, but I feel like Money on Mass still has some legs that deserves a little attention to get it out there because most of what we talked about today is really that Money on Mass book and what comes from there. And Mike, you've asked so many questions and the vignettes that you love. It's because I wrote about it. Usually, I can pull out vignettes because I write about it, and then it really gets me to think about it. It's not just as organic as it sounds sometimes.
Well, I can't wait
it's
to
good.
introduce you to my kids, honestly, because I
Awesome.
think, especially my son, I think he'd really get into a lot of the things that you're talking about, and I he could learn a lot. So
Amazing.
That's the highest
Before
compliment
me,
you can get from a
yeah,
father, by the way,
yeah.
right there.
Thank you.
So well done,
Appreciate it.
Garrett. Thank you.
Good to spend so
All
much
right.
time with you this week, Mike, and good to meet you.
Yeah,
nice
me
meeting you,
too.
Garrett. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah.